Language Foundations Vocabulary Flashcards, helping you achieve understanding.
Identifying word or words by which someone or something is called and classified or distinguished from others. The act of designating or identifying something. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. Identifying word or words by which someone or something is called and classified or distinguished from others. A geographical indication used to identify where the grapes for a wine are grown. Identifying word or words by which someone or something is called and classified or distinguished from others. Inclined to or serving for the giving of names. The appellative faculty of children. Pertaining to or dealing with or used as a common noun. Identifying word or words by which someone or something is called and classified or distinguished from others. A class of one kind of unit in a system of numbers or measures or weights or money. He flashed a fistful of bills of large denominations. A group of religious congregations having its own organization and a distinctive faith. The act of designating or identifying something. The process of recognizing something or someone by remembering. Evidence of identity. Something that identifies a person or thing. The attribution to yourself, consciously or unconsciously, of the characteristics of another person, or group of persons. The condition of having the identity, of a person or object, established. The thief's identification was followed quickly by his arrest. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. The appointment had to be approved by the whole committee. Usually in the plural, furnishings and equipment, especially for a ship or hotel. A person who is appointed to a job or position. A meeting arranged in advance. Law. The act of disposing of property by virtue of the power of appointment. She allocated part of the trust to her church by appointment. The job to which you were, or hope to be, appointed. He applied for an appointment in the Treasury. A duty that you are assigned to perform, especially in the armed forces. The act of distributing something to designated places or persons. The first task is the assignment of an address to each datum. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. Law. A transfer of property by deed of conveyance. An undertaking that you have been assigned to do, as by an instructor. The instrument by which a claim or right or interest or property is transferred from one person to another. The act of putting a person into a non-elective position. Inclined to or serving for the giving of names. The verbal act of naming. The part he failed was the naming of state capitals. Assign a specified, usually proper name to. They named their son David. Give or make a list of. Name individually. Give the names of. Give the name or identifying characteristics of. Refer to by name or some other identifying characteristic property. Many senators were named in connection with the scandal. Family based on male descent. He had no sons and there was no one to carry on his name. Determine or distinguish the nature of a problem or an illness through a diagnostic analysis. Charge with a function. Charge to be. She was named head of the committee. Identify as in botany or biology, for example. A defamatory or abusive word or phrase. A well-known or notable person. They studied all the great names in the history of France. Make reference to. His name was mentioned in connection with the invention. Create and charge with a task or function. A language unit by which a person or thing is known. His name really is George Washington. A person's reputation. He wanted to protect his good name. By the sanction or authority of. Halt in the name of the law. Mention and identify by name. Name your accomplices. The act of making up your mind about something. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. Satisfied with the panel's determination. The quality of being determined to do or achieve something. Firmness of purpose. His determination showed in his every movement. The act of determining the properties of something, usually by research or calculation. The determination of molecular structures. Deciding or controlling something's outcome or nature. The determination of grammatical inflections. The act of determining the properties of something, usually by research or calculation. Something that is found. The findings in the gastrointestinal tract indicate that he died several hours after dinner. The decision of a court on issues of fact or law. The act of making up your mind about something. The burden of decision was his. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. A decision unfavorable to the opposition. The trait of resoluteness as evidenced by firmness of character or purpose. Boxing. A victory won on points when no knockout has occurred. Had little trouble in taking a unanimous decision over his opponent. The outcome of a game or contest. The team dropped 3 decisions in a row. Event whose occurrence ends something. The proposition arrived at by logical reasoning, such as the proposition that must follow from the major and minor premises of a syllogism. The act of making up your mind about something. He drew his conclusions quickly. A position or opinion or judgment reached after consideration. His conclusion took the evidence into account. The act of ending something. The last section of a communication. In conclusion, I want to say. The temporal end, the concluding time. A final settlement. The conclusion of a business deal. An intuitive assumption. Jump to a conclusion. An identifying appellation signifying status or function, e.g., Mr. or General. The name used to identify the members of a family, as distinguished from each member's given name. A familiar name for a person, often a shortened version of a person's given name. An identifying appellation signifying status or function, e.g., Mr. or General. A familiar name for a person, often a shortened version of a person's given name. A familiar name for a person, often a shortened version of a person's given name. Joe's mother would not use his nickname and always called him Joseph. Give a nickname to. A descriptive name for a place or thing. The nickname for the U.S. Constitution is Old Ironsides. A familiar name for a person, often a shortened version of a person's given name. A familiar name for a person, often a shortened version of a person's given name. An alternative name that a person chooses or is given, especially in inner-city neighborhoods. Her street name is Bonbon. Slang for something, especially for an illegal drug. Smack is a street name for heroin. The name of a brokerage firm in which stock is held on behalf of a customer. All my stocks are held in street name. The name of a street. A heading that names a statute or legislative bill may give a brief summary of the matters it deals with. Designate by an identifying term. A legal document signed and sealed and delivered to effect a transfer of property and to show the legal right to possess it. He kept the title to his car in the glove compartment. The status of being a champion. He held the title for 2 years. An identifying appellation signifying status or function, e.g., Mr. or General. The professor didn't like his friends to use his formal title. An established or recognized right. He had no documents confirming his title to his father's estate. An informal right to something. His title to fame. Give a title to. A general or descriptive heading for a section of a written work. The novel had chapter titles. An appellation signifying nobility. Your Majesty is the appropriate title to use in addressing a king. The name of a work of art or literary composition, etc. He looked for books with the word jazz in the title. Usually plural, written material introduced into a movie or TV show to give credits or represent dialogue or explain an action. The titles go by faster than I can read. A familiar name for a person, often a shortened version of a person's given name. Identifying the nature or cause of some phenomenon. Identifying the nature or cause of some phenomenon. The act of ordaining. The act of conferring, or receiving, holy orders. An authoritative rule. A statute enacted by a city government. The state of serving as an official and authorized delegate or agent. A group of representatives or delegates. The appointment of a delegate. The act of appointing summarily, with or without the appointee's consent. The selection of a new member, usually by a vote of the existing membership. The act of ordaining. The act of conferring, or receiving, holy orders. The rabbi's family was present for his ordination. Logical or comprehensible arrangement of separate elements. The status of being ordained to a sacred office. Approval. Give her recognition for trying. The process of recognizing something or someone by remembering. A politician whose recall of names was as remarkable as his recognition of faces. The state or quality of being recognized or acknowledged. The partners were delighted with the recognition of their work. Coming to understand something clearly and distinctly. A sudden recognition of the problem he faced. An acceptance, as of a claim, as true and valid. The recognition of the Rio Grande as a boundary between Mexico and the United States. Biology. The ability of one molecule to attach to another molecule that has a complementary shape. Molecular recognition drives all of biology, for instance, hormone and receptor or antibody-antigen interactions are the organization of molecules into larger biologically active entities. Designation by the chair granting a person the right to speak in a deliberative body. He was unable to make his motion because he couldn't get recognition by the chairman. The explicit and formal acknowledgement of a government or of the national independence of a country. Territorial disputes were resolved in Guatemala's recognition of Belize in 1991. An address, usually at a political convention, proposing the name of a candidate to run for election. The nomination was brief and to the point. The act of officially naming a candidate. The Republican nomination for governor. The condition of having been proposed as a suitable candidate for appointment or election. There was keen competition for the nomination.
Become our student and get access to effective and free educational materials. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to become a part of our growing YouTube community and to learn English effectively.